Okay, it's 7:03. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call. We have four commissioners, Commissioners Conley, Vincegera, Cole, and Murphy. Commissioner Soden had informed me earlier this week that he's traveling and won't be able to make the meeting. But we have a quorum. Citizens with business before the commission. I see none in person. I see none virtually, so I'm going to assume there aren't any. Approval of the meeting minutes of April 21st, 2025. And then like to make a motion, actually either Lou or David.
I'll make a
I'll move to-
motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 4 ayes and an abstention. Commissioner Conley was not present at the meeting.
3 eyes.
3 ayes. You're absolutely right. It's that math thing again, you know?
Gets you every time.
Yep.
Okay, Jennifer, you're up.
Nothing earth-shattering to report. This month, we finished renewals for the wait lists. Couple minor stragglers, but pretty much all squared away there. And that's about it. I've already reminded you twice, but the fiscal year's ending, so any outstanding bills, we try and get taken care of as soon as possible. And for those of you who ever go on online mooring, they did recently launch an update. And if you've been on there, you can see it a lot better. I guess I never thought about how small it was because it was always that way. But now that it's bigger, I'm like, oh, it is easier to read. So.
You're talking the text.
Yeah, they just expanded it so that it actually uses the screen space more in a better way. And
When do they do that?
just this past week, yeah. And they also, I believe, improved the viewing on your phone so that that's a lot easier to read. I haven't tested it out on there because I usually use it on the regular computer, but receivables are good. We will be at budget once the remaining funds that are in, probably a little bit more than we budgeted for, once all the last funds are put in, so that's good. Line items look good. There's a couple of refund receipts in here. One was from last month, one's from this month. So that's about it, unless anyone has any questions.
Nope. Looks good budget-wise and everything else, right? Great. I did forget one thing. I don't think I'm too late. I want to add one item. I'm going to call it 6B. And it's just a discussion of North Coast dredging. I'll make a motion to add the item. Second. Second, any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, everyone say aye.
Aye.
Well, I'm not trying to lead you.
That
I would be highly disappointed if you didn't say yes. One on the list here. This is like Paul's speed. Holy smokes. New ladder update, Lou?
Yeah, so they're in and done. Did Bill send the invoice in to you?
I don't think so.
Okay. I told him to, but yeah,
Maybe, I don't remember, but
it's not in the package.
if it's not in the package, then I don't think I got it.
Okay.
Unless I got it tonight, right before this, and didn't.
I thought he would do it for the meeting, but okay, I'll get him too. Yeah, I don't think he's gotten to building a bulletin board yet, but that's his next. He's caught up on some other projects.
You're happy with
Do
the
that
work
for.
he's doing, Lou?
Yeah, the ladders came out really nice. Have you seen them? Done? They came out
I've
good.
been there and seen them.
Can I make a little bit of a comment?
Sure.
Jerk. I did talk to him. I don't know if he did or not, because I didn't double check. Where the handles are. It's like big knot on one. But it's gonna be something to catch someone's hand.
Hmm.
I didn't know if I talked to him. I don't know if he did or not.
Okay, to sand it down or something.
But like, I don't care if some kind of fill to it that's gonna stay in it or not.
Mhm.
I'm just worried it's gonna catch somebody's hand and we're gonna get, a mail about that.
Yeah, I'll mention that to him as well.
Okay. Other than that, I think they're nice.
Yeah, it's nice. They're sturdy and a nice handholds climbing up.
Yeah.
No update on the bulletin board?
No.
It's not done.
Right.
Okay.
He's,
I'm not complaining, I'm just,
yeah, he's backed up, but he's gonna get to it as soon as he can.
all right, we're gonna get to, one of our more important issues, at least to me. I'm gonna take a little bit of time and give a little bit of history to make sure we all know where we're at on this abandoned boat. I'm sure everyone that lives in Old Saybrook at this point knows it's here.
And surrounding towns.
And half of the state probably. So, I missed the May meeting because I was traveling. Just before I left, on or around May 3rd, I think I got an email from Lou saying we have a boat in the cove that, doesn't look right, type of thing. Okay. So as of around May 3rd, a lot of this information came through Scott. Towboats US towed a boat into the cove, attached it to one of our mooring holders' moorings. I understand Scott gave him permission to do that. The understanding was it was going to, it needed a place to go for a little bit, repaired, and it would leave, right? Which is something that we encourage, right? I mean, I don't want to use the word neighborly, but that probably says it the right way, that's what we should do to help out a boater that might be in distress. I think I might have communicated with Scott a couple times when I was away. He was having trouble getting the man to move the boat. There was some discussion about potentially him getting a permit and getting out mooring in the river. That process went on probably 3 weeks or so in that ballpark. About the time I got back, I think we elevated it to a police problem because Scott couldn't get to the guy. Police reached out to him along with the Coast Guard because Scott actually got them involved to try to get this guy to move. I'm going to interject my personal observations at that time. It just didn't concern me greatly until I physically saw the condition of the boat. The boat has a hole coming through the cabin top, right? Physical hole. Most of the stanchions are damaged or removed from the boat. It's really in poor shape. Okay. Point of clarification here, because we can talk about it later. It is floating and doesn't look in any sort of distress as far as losing waterline or whatever Scott's monitoring. So we don't think it's going to sink under present conditions. Because urgency was required, I went ahead and wrote a letter to the boat owner, which is attached here in somewhere, the May 30th letter. I'll tell you what I do if we're in between meetings and there's just no time to call a meeting or whatever. So I always bounce these things off Paul. I cut somebody else in. If I saw anybody physically, I would at least tell them what I was doing. But I hope no one has an objection to me sending out this letter to try to get this guy to move, or get some sort of reaction out of it. So the letter has about 3 different main points. First of all, there's an ordinance that we have in place that requires someone to only stay in North Cove for 48 hours. Now, we have extended that to 72 in our policies. And that was one of the things that we were trying to correct. Okay. I think it's immaterial whether it's 48 or 72, but the ordinance states 48. Okay. The ordinance also has an enforcement attached to it if people overstay it, that we can impose a fine not to exceed $100 a day. Okay. The owner is a man named Joel Dix. He, I don't know how to put this, I don't want to say nicely, but I think it's factual. There were several instances of saying, I will move the boat this weekend. Factual?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But never came through. Right? There was a series of reasons why he could not do it. The latest of which that he communicated with Scott was that he was going into the hospital for some surgery and he wouldn't be able to move the boat for about 7 days. Something of that nature. That's why in that letter, what we said was, you've already incurred fines of up to $2,300 because we don't have the permission. I didn't have the, we didn't get a chance to talk about it if we're going to impose something less than $100 or not. I think that's our decision. But we were willing to just walk away from those fines if he would move the boat by date certain, which was June 10th by memory. He did not. Okay. And if no one else saw it in the meantime too, in the meantime, myself and the mooring holder were interviewed on Channel 3 News. Okay, so it got a fair amount of visibility, which I think, frankly, based on the subsequent texts, which were very limited since the letter went out and the news story aired, he's gotten a lot more hostile, would be a fair characterization in his texts. Okay.
He's hostile.
Yeah.
Well, that certainly sounds appropriate, huh?
Okay.
Right?
So where we sit right now, with that as a backdrop, did I miss anything? No.
Well, he gave not just one date, he removed the boat. He gave the police one date, he gave the news one date, he gave us one date, he gave me 3 different dates he would move it, so.
Well, just keep this,
Not moved.
no big factual thing I missed, I should say, in my summary.
No,
So here we are, we still have the boat. The clock is ticking as far as $100 a day, that's still active, all right? We have to take the next step. I don't think this guy is going to move on his own anymore. I don't think he's going to move at all as far as making efforts to remove the boat. And I'll just lay out our next, we are not severely, we have to follow the Connecticut general statutes for this type of situation. We could remove the boat under certain circumstances, but they're pretty limited, and I don't believe that we can fit into that category, to be perfectly frank. But there's a process set up by the Connecticut general statutes to declare the boat abandoned and essentially be awarded possession of it. That process is long. It has a minimum waiting period, I can't remember the exact term, of 45 days, but it's got time on either side of that. From the filing, people have to go down and put a sticker on it. There's a whole bunch of things that have to happen.
sticker for,
They have to label it as this boat is subject to an abandonment action. Their sticker, their own deep sticker, the way I read the Connecticut general statutes.
do they have to put it on or we put it on?
I don't know the specifics, whether they give it to us and we put it on, or they have to physically put it on. It has to be affixed to the vessel as just one minor step in the big thing. It goes to the Secretary of State. They got to search for lien holders. They have to do this. They have to do that. And essentially they're giving them 45 days to come claim their property. Like, they don't know it's there. All right, essentially, I think that's the theory behind it. Now, we have two, relatively clear, I will say clear, I shouldn't have even said relatively, avenues to declare this boat abandoned. One, if it's in the waters and it's unregistered, that's one avenue. And the other one, if it's on someone's private property for more than 24 hours. I talked to a fellow from Deep named Timothy.
I always know him as Tim. Sorry.
Yeah, who specializes in this, and he's a great resource. And he essentially said, I consider him being on that mooring, either the mooring holders, they happens to rent it, okay, or the harbor or the harbor commission's property that they're on, because you regulate that mooring. So essentially it's yours, even though the other person might physically own it or lease it, the physical metal. So there's two different avenues or things they've breached. I shouldn't say breached, actions this man has taken that qualify for us for an abandon, to start the process of declaring this abandoned boat. This could take 60 to 90 days before we get the boat. All right. And then we have to pay to dispose of it. Now, if we go through that process, and this might come relevant later, we can then take the boat and do whatever we want with it. The big question here is what? Okay. I mean, we have permission to move, but hold on a second. We have permission from the owner to move it right now, but the big question is, where are you going to move it? I mean, no marina is going to take it without charging us, right? We can't, we can't just take it out of them. I mean, we could start looking at marinas to say, okay, haul it, put it on jacks, and we have to pay for all that. Okay. We can't move it to an unsafe location. I don't think that's wise, being a public agency or just whatever. So, I'm open to suggestions, but I don't see any other place
Where it is.
to put it than where it is. It's safe. We certainly don't want this thing rolling up on a beach somewhere if we put it, not that we ever would, in a place that's not safe.
Other than, should we move it to a town mooring instead of a private mooring?
I would rather not want to see that eyesore
I know.
up front.
By the town dock.
If Len's his name?
Yep.
If he's okay with where he's going.
He's right now on the Miller's mooring.
Okay.
They filed a rule out.
Is he okay with that?
Yes, he's okay where he is. As long as, and we've talked about it, you're okay because it's slightly longer,
Right.
bigger than the boat that was on there. So if you're okay, he's okay.
The other thought, because we were planning on putting some moorings out on the river, if we did get a river mooring and putting them out there, essentially.
We haven't secured those.
Yeah, so far I'm not doing too hard on that.
Okay.
And the other thing is, what we always encourage people that are in the river to do, which we get storms about 4 times a year, I'd say, where we get a pretty nasty northeast breeze, right? And we say, you should be in the cove. You know what I mean? So I think we're better off just leaving it there. But again, if anybody has any other ideas, that's why we're talking here. So I don't think there's any downside to starting this abandonment process. I'm perfectly willing to fill everything out. The party that files these things has to have standing. I'm pretty sure the Harbor Commission has standing because it can be a public agency. So it carries a fee of $20, which is de minimis under these circumstances. And I think you know, if we have some other alternative after we start the process, I believe we can withdraw our application. Right, so,
I mean, technically, he'll be responsible for those fees that we incur. Will we ever get anything? Likely not,
If-
but
Don't hold your breath.
Depends.
Right.
Well, it depends on what teeth you can give this thing. I'm not convinced there are teeth.
Is an owner.
Doesn't matter. He may register a car. He may want to do something. He may want to pay his taxes.
Okay, now you say that. I don't know the answer on it.
I don't either. I don't either.
If the local police gave him a ticket because the boat's not registered, but it's in the water, does that stop him from being able to register something?
Unknowns, but still, they're potentially they're a teeth.
well, some little fingers of this are two things. One, Scott got a very preliminary price to junk the boat because the idea of obtaining title to it is so we could junk it. You know, he has admitted on the news that it's worth scrap value. Well, okay. At least he admits it's in that range. Right? You know what I mean? That isn't, in his mind, you know, a functioning valuable asset. And that's $3,000. Now we can certainly check around for better. You know, that was kind of the one person that initially said, I will take it for free. But then that didn't quite work out.
He did his homework on the boat, and it's not a lead keel. That's what brings the value to these boats.
If you melt the
Just to let you know.
Funny, I just did the same homework and there's two versions of that boat. One has a lead keel and one doesn't. There's a
Okay.
902, excuse me, a 9.2 and a 9.2
Look at you.
R. The R is the racing version. It has a lead keel.
I don't think that's an honor.
I don't think it's an R either. But we might want to look, because if you look at the decal on the side,
Mhm.
when you look at the R's on the internet, they have the same decal. They don't have R on it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, see if it was there.
Maybe you can look it up. from
no. What I'm saying is,
Yeah,
yeah, we have
the
clear,
boat number,
we have clear,
whole number.
pictures of the hull now. Okay, so maybe we get one more step, maybe it does. Okay, either way, I think we start the abandonment process.
Mhm.
Okay. David, you're gonna say?
Bob?
Yep.
Yeah, what I'm gonna suggest is one thing, don't move that boat. I wouldn't move it out into the river because that would create another liability issue for us. The other thing is, do you know if this man is he a property owner? Does he own his house?
Oh,
I don't think we've done exhaustive searches, but it doesn't appear that anything pops. It certainly does not own the house that he gave as his address. Okay, we know that much.
Okay.
He also
Yeah,
has, might have seen stories of a boat up in Hartford in the river all winter in the ice. I don't know if you saw that or not.
No, I
All
didn't see
right,
it.
so he has more than one of these. He has at least
Okay.
two, potentially three,
Yeah,
okay?
I think we need to start the process, and I don't think, if he doesn't own anything, or if there's nothing we can attach or go after, then we're gonna be biting the bullet on it, but that's all you can do.
Well, getting back to what started the discussion about this is the Connecticut general statutes say if you go through this process and you incur costs, the owner is responsible for those. But I think you have to go through, through the process.
Right.
Where that gets us, I don't know. Now, you brought up the police giving a ticket. Scott has been in contact with one of the officers, and I've been in contact with the acting chief. It was very cooperative. Seems like a pretty nice guy who came out with not immediately. First he waited based on our letter until June 10th, and then he did some research on it pretty much on his own, and thinks that he can give him a ticket for $480, I believe is the number. Okay, for violation of two different areas of abandonment that I talked about. So he's pursuing that.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that these are related or not. You know what I mean? I think he's doing his thing.
Mhm.
We're doing our thing, I guess. But
I think they are
He-
parallel.
I think they're parallel. Funny, what the ramifications of those is he does have to go to court for this, right? That's what I was told, and we'll,
Has to show up, so if he
he
doesn't
has to
show up,
go up,
then
he has a ticket against him, right? I don't know where that falls in his priorities of life. I don't know,
it gets stopped someday.
Yep.
Would the yacht club be interested in the donation of a sailboat?
I'm not the Commodore anymore. But I think not.
All right, I've been sitting here waiting to ask this.
So I have two items on my hit list. Number one, I'm gonna make a motion that the Harbor Commission authorize me to start the abandonment process pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes. I believe it's 50-40C.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. I also think it's appropriate, maybe it just makes me feel better, I don't know, to send a follow-up letter. And I've drafted a follow-up letter that was put in your packet, but yeah, I got it. But I didn't get it to Jennifer in time to put it in the big packet, okay? It's a very simple letter parroting a lot of the letter that I sent earlier. Let me tell you this. I had trouble reading the name on the back stern of the boat. I thought it was bills of sale, and it's bill of sales. Okay, so that'll be corrected in this draft. Okay. Now we think the fines are up to $3,700 if, and I think I'm going to ask a vote for that too because it's important. If we want to assess a fine of $100 per day. It's actually per occurrence. All right. Or do we want to go less? But, that number, I'll make that number right when the letter goes out to them. But I think it's a good thing to basically say the free, us walking away from those fines is not on the table anymore based on your actions.
Number three.
Okay. And in here I reference, that I anticipated we would get the authorization to, start the abandonment process. So I've written the letter that way. So I'm gonna make a motion that the commissioners allow me to send the draft letter dated June XX 2025 to Mr. Dix. Just making sure that the name on the stern of the boat is correct and edit that as appropriate and to update the estimated cost as appropriate.
Is that a motion?
That's a
And
motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. Does anybody have any general questions or comments before we move on? I've got one other minor point on all of this. Well, maybe some more discussion. But
Just some notes about when post this event, when we're talking in general about this problem, some ideas. Chuck, John, or
Yep,
Those can wait to when we have one.
fair enough.
Ideas to what, prevent this? I take full responsibility on this.
I don't think
Just for the fact of,
I don't think
for
that's.
what North Cove stands for, with the assumption that I told him 72 hours, not 48. I told him, okay,
Again, some ideas, no fingers are going.
I'm blaming me. Right now, I'm blaming me.
You shouldn't, that's unfair.
That's what we're saying.
But
We need to have a clear policy. We talked about it before. We bumped up again, but we never quite finished it. So now sometime when the leaves are turning, we can revisit and talk about
Yeah,
that process. So we know
Yeah.
exactly what we're doing.
Yep.
And you've got clear guidance.
Mhm.
So, but that's all I have. Like, this is a good process, is about all we can do.
what about a $10 raffle for the town for a fixer up?
Well, general things. First of all, is there any objection? I don't think we need a vote to charging them $100 a day. Is there any appetite here for charging them less than $100 a day?
Zip.
Okay, just wanted to hear it all, you know, making sure that we kind of got it on the record.
The only thing I would possibly say is if for whatever reason he got this second letter and he called and talked about it, definite date, and he really did get it out of here.
Bring it up at the following meeting.
Yeah.
Talk about it again. No, zero flex on that. Till it's gone. Once it's gone, we can talk.
Well, that's what I mean. I understand that, believe me.
No conversation.
Promises.
Or any indications of anything.
Okay.
The best thing he can do for himself is move the boat.
Absolutely.
He's worried about not getting fined and,
I think this is worth just talking about here for a second. I don't think he's too keen on you right now.
I'm such a likable guy. What do you mean?
He's not.
Yeah, because you've asked him to move the boat he abandoned in the cove.
Well, just his texts.
Oh,
Yeah,
trust
just
me.
his texts. I may be in that bucket too, because, you know, I was the one on the news along with Len.
It's the high school parade.
Yes, yes.
about that is.
Yeah.
Graduation.
Greg's daughter's graduating.
Okay.
Not a new chief.
Sorry.
No. Joe will know that.
Good one.
Do we want to try to approach him and say, listen, if you want to stop the $100 a day, sign the boat over to us, or you scrap it? No, we are not.
You could mention the letter, the sooner the boat's signed over to us and the process is complete, the sooner the fines will stop. I have no need to wait 45 days if he's willing to.
Yeah, make it abundantly clear that fines will stop, meaning not go away, just stop.
Because it'll be fewer days in the process.
Now,
It's still gonna cost us $3,000 to get rid of it.
now, if we don't go through the process, we're not entitled to the recovery costs. Just so you know.
And
So-
Bob, I wouldn't do any of that. I would
Yeah.
suggest that we go through the process and build this thing up as high as you can. You can always negotiate later if he comes forward and
Okay.
says he'll remove it.
You're never gonna get a penny from them.
Okay, so,
And then if you get into a legal situation, at least, you know, you go in for the maximum and you can always settle it later.
okay, that answered my question. And but in fairness, I wanted to bring up the concept and see what everyone's reaction was and be guided by that. So,
Good
yeah,
point, David.
yep. Okay. Okay, well, I think we've beat this to death. I'm unsure exactly how to update everyone. I'm just gonna ask this openly here. Does anybody have an objection? Do you think we're doing anything improper if I simply update the commission by email in the interim between, you know, like, we've made the filing. Here's a copy of it. We've, we're at this step in the filing. I think that's proper.
I too, it's just like, we could redo that anytime there's information we might want to have the commission to have for the next
Yep.
meeting.
Okay,
So in, preparation for the next meeting, FYI, I did this, FYI, I did that,
Yep.
nothing
Okay.
unusual about that at all.
no decisions obviously or anything
Nope.
else that requires a meeting, but
Simply saying this is coming up at the next meeting.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah.
fair enough. Okay, I will do that.
Did see it now. Ginger 2. I'm trying here.
Okay, the added item I've got is 6D. North Cove dredging. It's very brief. Paul spotted a survey boat in the cove. So that's progress. There's a letter in here or an email in here from the Army Corps. Basically saying we're trying to make arrangements to do it, either in the summer or the fall, but it was even earlier than we thought, which was great.
You think they were doing a full-blown survey going back and
They
forth?
had the yellow light going, they were going back and forth all around, all through the cove, so to me, I mean, I didn't stand around watching it.
Yeah, but it wasn't just a one and done, it was.
No, they were back and forth,
Yep, doing the grid.
doing the edges, I saw them doing an edge
Mhm.
towards the launch.
Great.
Michael,
Craig Martin.
That's what I thought it was.
it was Craig Martin, who was the guy from the Corps, but the head of the Port Authority.
Okay, yeah.
that, came to a meeting where I wasn't, but I met him separately, was trying to help in any way he can. You can't imagine that whatever he did not help.
Right.
So I wrote him a quick thank you note, saying, we appreciate your help. That's in the package too, if I remember it somewhere. Okay, so that's one update. The other update is, we're starting to get, I don't want to overblow this, but we're starting to get more concerned, more orders about the condition of the cove. And I think this year we're gonna hear more complaints than we did last year. It was relatively benign last year. We had 3 or 4, 5, 6 incidents or so where boats were hitting each other. Most of them were on, relatively bad tide cycle. But I think we're gonna get more. I saw a boat stuck in the cove today when we were out there. It was quite evident. Pretty strong wind coming from the, I don't know, from the south-ish. All the boats are turned one way and one sideways. It's obviously stuck. Shearwater. I get the rows all screwed up. Just this side or just the other side is Spinache.
Okay.
Chris Griffin, yeah.
Chris Griffin. Okay. Probably lasted 20 minutes. I was just down there doing some other things I didn't really want to do. So I was like staring into space a lot, watching it. But I had one mooring holder approach me, complaining that he thinks he doesn't have enough water underneath him, and then brought up the idea, which we kicked around a little bit, and that's why I'm bringing it up, about, well, I go back to Old Line Marina, but then I'm down at the bottom of the list if I leave. And there was some talk about us at one time when we were talking about dredging, letting people out, but not losing their position should dredging happen. And I think that's something we might want to consider more formally in the next couple meetings, okay?
Well, it's okay. I remember this from the past. It is the right thing to do because it's one of those things. If we can't provide a service, then they have an avenue B, and they shouldn't lose their place because we're the one not providing it.
I agree.
It's like if they come into Dredge North Cove, we really got to do something in front of that town dock. Being if it's add a floating dock in front of it. So when they come to dredge, you move the floating dock and you got the distance away, because a lot of people can't get to that dock unless it's perfectly high tide.
Both of those things we should probably talk about
Mhm.
in the next couple of meetings,
Mhm.
okay? I don't think it's right to do it now and say you could get out now. But when people are starting to renew, would be the time to say, if you want out, now we have to develop some sort of, it's not gonna be that straightforward either, right? Because what happens if they all can't, do we fill those spots or do we just leave them open?
Well, put it this way, if for some reason we do fill those spots, it's gotta be a whole new contract.
That these
Telling these
have to-
people when it's dredged, if they wanna come back,
But, yeah,
You lose your spot.
the temporary spot.
So the people that leave would all be the same priority, right? Because we'd always have those spots.
Right.
Okay. So we wouldn't have to worry about, well, he got it in
Right.
1986 and
That's
he
right.
got it in 2012. It won't matter.
All of them will come.
Correct. All of them that want to leave would come back.
And then X number would be additional over what we have this year. Correct.
not to make an example out of one person, but this boat hasn't even been on his mooring
I
yet.
know. Let's see.
But
I get it.
how can
I
you
get it.
complain if you haven't even been there yet?
I brought it up for the concept, not for the individual.
Okay,
Okay. That's what I was trying to say.
okay.
All right.
So if you're going to consider something like that, we need to, I'm trying to think when, is it November 1st, we usually send out the invitation for renewal. So you have to have made the decision in enough time for if there needs to be a database change for me to get that implemented, or we'll have to put off renewal.
I 110,
Okay.
I 110, we could set a date that August, we should make a decision, right?
Yeah.
2 months from now, right? Month from now, 2 months from now.
It's not gonna, it might not be like snap implementation. That's why I think we need to
When
plan for
when
that.
do you think, when would you like to know to tell online mooring if we do this?
I mean, I'd like to give them at least a month's notice, I would say.
I would ask them if they have any other towns or marinas or bays or whatever.
I mean, I could talk to them about it now and see
Right,
if they've
I
done
think so.
something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We could talk about it at our next meeting.
They might have a whole scenario better than we ever thought.
I would plan on it going forward,
Okay.
because I think it's something we're offering now. Is it gonna be 2 boats, 5 boats, 10 boats, no boats? We don't know.
Is online mooring tracking our 40-foot plus list now?
Like an off book thing.
We're doing that off the books. So this could be an off the book thing as well, right? Or no?
Yeah, but
I just think this sounds like it might get messy. Like if there's a way to have it more automated and official, I think it would be better.
invisible,
Yeah,
invisible. Yeah.
well, the 40-foot boat thing is visible too.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm saying at the same time, should we add the 40-foot boat list to the online mooring if they're gonna make a change?
That's up to you. Whatever makes your life easier.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk to them.
I know you just love these spreadsheets.
And the more the merrier.
That's right. The old days. I'd long for those again. Clothesline?
Oh, good.
Good.
I will do my first pass. You probably have done it already. I haven't yet done a pass through.
I've been doing it by water.
Okay. I used to try to do it 5 times. I'll do my first one this weekend.
Okay, David, dredging area discussion? Do you have any?
Nothing on the dredging, but as you know, we may have some parking situations down on Ferry Road. You know, there's been cars showing up to watch the destruction of the old power plant, but there's also a bunch of people who come down to watch the crane service across the channel in the bridge building. Why they do it, I don't know. So far, it's been manageable, but we may have to put up some additional no parking signs. and watch people who are, coming in and out. It's gonna get crowded with the holidays, I'm sure, but right now it's still good, so.
David, are they sitting in their cars or are they getting out and walking over somewhere?
No, there's most of them right now are sitting in their cars watching. The people sitting in the car is not the problem. The problem we're gonna have is that, Mr. Caldarella, who has the south yard, has rented out about 15 slips. And if they're a town resident, by ordinance, they can get a permit, okay, to park where the fishermen park.
How is that?
It's, you gotta read the town, according to the town ordinance that Bob sent a copy of. If you're a town resident, you can get a parking permit for North Cove and the Ferry Road, any town facility.
That's not right.
Well,
Without owning a boat, you're saying? Or,
Yeah, it's just says
Without-
town resident or tax.
So you can have a boat in the marina and park there.
No, you don't need it. So if it gets really crazy, we would have to change the ordinance, but
If
at this
you're a
point,
town resident,
I think
not-
we're okay.
you're just a slip holder in the marina. You know, that's not a town resident, you can't park it. But you can get, and you need a parking pass, but to get a parking pass, you just go to the selectman's office and you show them your license and you go down there. Whether you're,
but Jennifer just let
Voter?
everybody do
I was very specific, wasn't I? Selectman's office.
it? But that's true, right?
Yeah, they can come to my,
Yeah.
yep, anybody who shows a registration or a tax bill.
Yep.
They're entitled to a parking sticker.
I'm just hoping that all the slips that he's rented are not to town residents. If there's a few, that's fine, but if we got 15 slips rented to town residents, it's gonna be a real problem.
Does he have parking over there? I presume so, right?
He's lost
Well,
it.
they're right now it's in the midst of construction with the tear down of the building.
Right.
I assume he's gonna have to make parking on his property for it, because otherwise they're all gonna end up, we're gonna have fist fights down there if they end up in our lot, or in the Ferry Road lot.
I do think once the demolition is done, they're gonna have a lot more space.
Yeah.
And this is a more or less temporary problem.
What is
Assume.
the function of Ferry Road? What is the town definition of Ferry Road? No,
I don't,
huh?
I don't know exactly.
I
The
mean,
town, you'd have to look at the.
What are you trying to get?
a sign there, I mean, like,
Ferry Road Town Dock is what it says.
yeah, but I mean, like, boat slip holders only?
No, it doesn't say that.
There's no dock to fish off there. There's no.
It says
reason to be
parking.
down there.
I believe it says parking by permit only. I believe.
But it says it closed on, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Okay.
It's the standard language.
Yeah.
The question is,
Yeah.
who's entitled to a permit? Anybody who's a town resident can just ask for it and get a permit.
Maybe that should be looked at a little
Well, looking at that isn't just like we decided. It's, we go to a selectman, make a we vote for it, goes to the selectman, makes a recommendation, goes to, I don't know who else, and then to a town meeting to
We
change
need
the
an
ordinance.
ordinance package coming up here. We got a bunch of things clean
I
up.
don't think it's gonna be overly popular.
No, no. Take
You know?
away someone's potential parking.
So I would suggest, we haven't had this issue.
Yeah.
Here until the bridge construction started,
Probably temporary.
and it got worse with the demolition. If I'm understanding, as Dave reported to me. Now, I gotta tell you, the first time I went down to end of May to look at my boat, I go right by there and I'm going, wow, what's going on down there? Because it was loaded with cars.
Huh.
Or trucks, I should say. So yeah, it's a visible problem. Whether there's still parking spaces or not, I don't know. I've also seen it die down a lot, but is that a big scientific study? No, it's not. It's just me driving down whenever I, was working on the boat. David,
Building completely down now?
almost.
I'm down there on pretty much a regular basis, and right now it hasn't been bad. Just about 3 or 4 guys who are constantly down there watching the demolition. As long as they don't leave cars where the guys can't get to the dock to unload their catches, it won't be a problem. I think what we may have to do, if it gets bad, we'll just have to put up some more signs for, parking for slip holders, try to keep them out of there as much as we can, and see how it goes.
Actually, what he just said sounded good. If we had a sign made up that says, "Don't block this section."
Mhm.
I mean, okay, that sort of takes care of it.
Mhm.
And maybe ask the police if possible, once in a while, to take a ride down there. If it becomes a problem. But honestly, maybe we should have a sign that says, "Don't block," I'm gonna call it Iowa Way or whatever.
If you guys, because you're enthusiastic about this and David's down there all the time, if you have a recommendation about signage, let us know at the next meeting. It's easy to make up
Yeah.
signs, and because they're small, I would assume, right? I don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
think you have to go to zoning or anything else. I don't think. My recollection of the rules, so. Sure, that's easy. So the next thing is, and I'm gonna let David take this, but I could chime in too. I have a little bit of background on it, not much. Water control devices at Ferry Road.
Yeah, we talked to the plumber who fixed the system down there, and there's stuff available, but it's not what we really want. You really need power down there to get a switch that you can control with an alarm system. So I think at this point, we're gonna, unless you found something else, Bob, that works, there's a possibility of putting some kind of a timer on it, as they do with irrigation systems for lawns, where the sprinkler, in other words, where you can control the hours that the water is on.
Yeah,
But-
I was talking more specifically about the $3,300 bill. That's in here.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what had happened is, as you probably know, the line was never winterized last year. It was never blown out. It was never winterized. Consequently, what happened is water got in, either that or water got into the line where it was broken. There was
That's more like it.
the pipe was broken, and the water got in from because it was underwater at high tide. The other thing that happened is the check valve broke off and fell into the water. And that valve had to be raised. It wasn't up to code. So when the guys did the repairs, they had to raise it. They did a good job, but unfortunately it was a pricey operation.
The person that Dave found to do this work was recommended by Dan Rutan. Okay. And he's more of a commercial dock guy, or has a lot of more experience than other people we've hired. No disrespect to other people. So it just sounded to me like, he did a more dock suitable marine-based repair than others. Okay. What we did talk about, and maybe David's rustled this to ground a little bit by his comments, is we get some benefit of this guy who might have seen a lot of these water systems on docks going down there. Excuse me, his experience when he got in here and started repairing stuff. Now he knows the system, and he might be able to make some suggestions. And he was available, and we had people screaming for water. So is it a fair amount of money? It is. Was it well worth it? It probably was. Yeah. I'm not saying it's unfair when I'm saying probably was. I'm just saying,
Having that backflow preventer at what it was before, I'm not knocking anybody, but it shouldn't have been going underwater twice a day. So,
And it was, and it was that.
oh
where-
yeah,
where they
definitely.
had put it, it was underwater, you know, you couldn't even get
I
to
mean,
it.
that's why I always said build a box and set it back and land more or something, but
Yeah, I mean, long term, you
Yeah.
had to bring that water line inboard. So where we have that sheet pile with a metal cap, it's easy to put the water line underneath the cap. But then when it turns to that granite block bulkhead for like 100 feet, that you have to excavate behind there, it's gonna be a little more difficult, but that'd be the long-term solution,
Well, you
and it's
know,
protected.
maybe we reach out to this guy to do a project in the winter. You know, because we pay some money to do it every year. And every year beyond just the money part, you know, which hasn't been terrible. It's kind of a hassle, right? It always comes up. when we're trying to do a whole bunch of other things and, you know, so I personally would not be opposed to hearing any suggestions from somebody like this guy about a more permanent repair. Okay.
and maybe there's some excavation work. Maybe, I don't know how you'd feel about, or even the contractor of like, you know, piecemealing it, if you wanna call it that, of the town doing some of the excavation work, try to save us some money.
We can certainly look at that. You know, I don't think these guys, my just gut feel is they're not wild about digging ditches, right? They would welcome, I think they'd welcome the help. You know, I could be dead wrong, but I don't think so. Okay. All right, Scott, you're next.
Well, you're taking care of most of my, problems. The only one real problem I could say is I had would say, Saybrook went in twice. It's coming back from South Cove going to North Cove, and they're going out in a little Carolina skiff with a tree about 1.5 times the size of the skiff. So I slowed down, watched him go out, and I turned around and said, "What are you doing with that?" "Oh, we're gonna let it go." I said, "Excuse me?" "Oh, we're just gonna let it go." I'm like, "You can't just let it go." "Well, that's what our harbor master told us to do." "Oh, okay." So got hold of the harbor master, and she said, "Oh yeah, the police told us that's what you do." I said, "Okay." I ended up calling the police on 2 different times because I don't want to be that boat that hits whatever they put out. So I don't know if it was the police's solution or Coast Guard or whoever, but bring the wood out of there, bring it in the South Cove, and put it up in the marsh. So when high tide comes, it picks it back up and then floats it back out anyway.
You took it.
I didn't take it.
No, I'm just
The
saying.
guys in the Carolina skiff,
They took it into South Cove.
yeah, supposedly either the police told them to do this or Coast Guard. Bring it around to the side and beach it. Well, they bring it up into the marsh at like half tide, then high tide it starts floating again, goes back out anyway. It's not really a solution, but
By the breakwater, just south of Lynn Point Lighthouse, there's a huge pile of trees and lumber. So someone's hauling stuff up there and stacking it on the beach there. I don't know who's doing that.
The harbor master must love that,
That's a property owner or what?
whoever that is.
At least they're pulling it out of the river, which is good.
There seems to be a lot of stuff this year.
they got a big bonfire.
Yeah, you got a lot of lumber.
Other than that, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay, great.
What's the story with the Welcome to North Cove sign?
I gotta get out there and put it up. I've been out there stomping around the ground. It might not actually be on his island. It might actually be out like where the pilings were because it's all rocks. So, but I am trying to figure what we're gonna do.
You can do like 2 4x4s, basically, or
If I'm gonna put it out there, I'm probably gonna do 6x6s or something.
won't be here.
I don't know how I do it, but do I make it removable?
Or should we drive pipe? You have one of those pipe hammers?
I got a thing driver, but the problem is like when we had pilings out there and we had that one big sign out there, we had a storm and it took the sign. That was $1,100 back then.
But we're putting the sign up and we got the permission from the guy to put it up onto the island.
I know, but if I can't because of all it being too rocky, what do we do?
Still too rocky.
I'm not so sure you can put it in the water.
No, you can't put it in the water.
Well, we had it in the water before.
Yeah, but the whole reason is
Permit.
did this whole thing
Right.
to get the guy's permission. We made the sign and said, do not
Yeah.
trespass. The whole agreement there was that we could put it up on land.
All right. I'll find a way.
Let us know what you need. You know, I get the logistical, I get the practical problem of it. You can't do much with put stuff through stone.
No, but it might actually, you might have
Let me know
a
about
point of doing pipe.
Yeah, pipe.
Driving a pipe through.
You know, you almost do like a pipe with a well point. I hate to say it like that, but yeah.
Mhm.
Even if I could borrow, the town's got one of those gas powered pole slammers.
Mhm.
Maybe I could do it that way.
Can't go below the coastal jurisdiction line.
You have to be above.
Which is.
The phrase below the coastal jurisdiction line refers to the area of land and
There it is.
It's New York.
Yeah.
It's 2 feet above.
Mary wants to
Okay.
make sure you get this.
That's understandable. I do understand that. And honestly, if I can get it up on land a little bit where it's still nice and think of all the flooding and stuff, I'd rather have it higher up on land
Yeah.
anyway.
And ice and all that.
That's why we did the agreement with the guy, right? And get his
Yeah.
permission and change
Yeah.
for that other sign.
Oh, speaking of. A mooring holder who stays on their boat called me like a week ago about Gardner Island. There was a fire out there. There was kids out there camping. Come to find out it was the owner's, I think, stepson. I don't think he has a son. I just want to let you know that.
Okay.
They did have an area cleared out.
Yeah, I noticed they did, yeah. Nice.
They told me, I said, you better keep water nearby. I said, I don't know if this is really legal or not,
Mhm.
but it's your property.
There's water nearby.
I just told him, I said, if we're having a real dry spell, I really highly suggest you don't have a fire, because they had all marsh behind them.
Yeah, right.
That falls to more than their little strip of land. That falls to a lot.
Yeah, totally.
But anyway,
Okay, any communications that we haven't discussed yet besides Rule 11 stuff? Got the 140-foot boat list. We've got and I'm contradicting myself. Mr. Tenorero filed a Rule 11. Mr. Miller filed a Rule 11. Mr. Niedendorf. I think that's about it.
Did you always do a letter last year too?
No,
No.
they had a boat last year. They sold it over the winter. So this is year one. He happened to be in a briefing I was giving to the launch drivers, and someone asked the question about how many years can you do it? 2 years. Policy.
Yes.
Unwritten practice.
Yep.
So this is his first year. I expect 2 more coming in. Till they come in, I want to say who they are. And there's about 5 here in the next couple of weeks.
So Niendorf was asking for a credit refund, right? On there.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do that, right?
We told them no. We did send something.
Yes.
yeah, he did communicate with me. I did not say anything about any kind of a refund.
I told him he missed it.
To me, it doesn't even, yeah, you're right. I'll stay with that.
Well, we actually made a real deadline this year.
Yeah, he is. Yep. We're really not that do this.
Yeah.
Okay, LWRD license application transmittal for Home Bank Road. I told Jennifer before the meeting that before I leave this commission, which I'm not saying I'm going to, all right, I'm gonna understand which ones we sign and which ones we don't sign, because I really just don't know. So my only process is to go here and look. If the form's in here, we sign it. If not, we're good.
I think the LWRDs, we don't.
We do not sign this one. I couldn't find the form. So it's basically just a notification.
Yeah. Over, so 8 o'clock.
I'm doing pretty good.
I'm just
Must have
playing.
been
with you.
so-
Amtrak River Bridge updates, none. Ordinance change. We'll talk about in the future. Dredging, no. Kayak subcommittee.
No,
Video surveillance. I was good to you. You don't be good to me. All right?
I've seen some
Update on
cameras.
harbor management plan.
On video, just real 1 second, it may come a time when it makes sense to go and meeting on that pole down at Ferry Road. Because the power is there,
I know.
and it would involve getting a meter, and then you'd have power for a camera, and you'd have power for if there needed to be a plumbing solution. Just while we're passing by. Harbor management plan,
Can we just tap into the power
yeah,
there?
you can go for it. Harbor management plan, I think I sent around a shared document, and I think I gave everybody permission back. I know I did with Bob.
Yep, I got it.
David, were you able to get to see the harbor management plan thing? Did you ever check?
No. Paul, I gotta be honest, I saw it and then it wanted me to download some other program to access it.
Oh, it's probably Word. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't.
Anyway, so when we get to this, what that is Jeff had highlighted the places where we needed to make input only. So it took that huge 200-page document and brought it down into like 30 pages where we need to make something. So at some point, what we want to do is kind of maybe systematically tackle that. And I think that, from what it's asking about, it's simple stuff, but it needs attention. So it's like, what are the marinas in town now? And
What are they called?
what are they called? What are they called? What's their phone number? I don't know, but there's stuff like that. So it's structural stuff. Much of it just is, yeah, that's still the case. It's still that way. So when we get to it, I was just trying to find a place where we could all edit the same document so that we wouldn't have to be passing around notes and someone have to type something up and everything else. So maybe what I just ask is if people can get into it. I guess, David, do you not use Word or any?
I don't have that. I don't have Word as a program. I don't have it on the computer.
Okay. So
I don't believe it. I'm sure I don't.
Okay, so there's a free version of it, and maybe there's something else, but I'll look into if there's a way to make edits. Or maybe you have to do it on paper and we'll type them in.
All right.
I didn't try it yet, but
Yeah, it requires me to, it's like a 2-step thing. I sent the invite, you guys accept, and I have to accept the accept or something.
okay.
So I don't really check my email that frequently either, so I'll keep an eye on it. But basically, if you can get into it, that's really all I'm looking for at this point. And then we can. And Jeff, I haven't heard from him. It's frustrating as hell, to be honest. And I'm sure I didn't want to engage him because the legislative session was going on and was all this stuff. And so I just stayed away, frankly. But now that the legislative session is over, I'll try to
And maybe we should
back again. We might want to have him come to a meeting or something.
Yeah. He hasn't built a site.
No. But nothing much has been done. I mean, just some simple stuff. So there's nothing much new there. Sorry to take up the time.
No problem. Yeah, but it was my time, right?
I wanted to do that this time.
I know. Are you done now?
Yes.
All right. Make sure. Well, actually, you're not, Paul, because you're next on the agenda.
Well, did you want to talk about potential ramp guides or not? Anything about?
I don't think we've heard back from the permit side of that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we told them to go forward with the permit applications.
Okay.
But haven't heard
This
back.
is coastal.
Yeah.
Okay.
That might be worth a call.
Yeah.
You know what, North Cove?
Drop up ramp.
Yeah.
4 piles, yeah.
So, Paul,
These
Just-
bills were paid last
What-
time?
no,
These are
no,
new.
these are new,
Okay.
and then
What boat do you
you'll
put
see
in there?
there are
Those
bills.
the green boat, or the wooden green boat?
Right.
Small
I
one?
put my pontoon boat in there.
Okay.
I haven't got that much on either side to clear when I back it in.
That'd be fine.
It is, the pontoon boat's 11 feet wide.
I'm now ready, if you're ready for me, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, please, Paul, make a motion.
Okay, motion to pay the following bills. 1,620 to Northworks for maintenance at the facilities. $266 to my moorings. $90 twice, two $90 invoices to clean restroom rentals for the porta potty at Sheffield and Ferry. $30 to the state of Connecticut for sales tax. And $3,395 for the Guild Plumbing and Heating for work done at Ferry Road. In addition, these are not in your package, but Jennifer just handed them to me.
I just hand them there.
Russ, these are people supporting you to put the spring. So there, it looks like there's 3 invoices here for people who are assisting Scott to get the moorings in. 18 hours at $20 an hour, et cetera. So $360 to Nicole Rivers. $540 to Caitlin Lewanzak. Lifelong production. $1,000 to Herbie Smith. And tax ID here
For Herbie.
someone for Herbert, which makes it legal. So those are the bills to be paid this time.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
One more quick thing on bills. Also in your packet are bills from last month. Jennifer put paid on the bottom right. And those were bills that were paid because we didn't have a quorum last month. But I'd like a motion to accept, yes, that these were paid last month. I don't think I need to read them off. You've got them there.
Yep.
So a motion to make certain that we did pay the bills last month as shown.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Done.
David?
Yes, it's, I will make a motion that we adjourn at, 8:18.
Cool.
Second?
Oh, second.
Discussion? None?
Very good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.